conference by conference, this is my list of must rebuilds in NCAA 25 Dynasty Mode. Starting in the American, it's Rice. The Rice Owls, based out of Houston, Texas. The reasoning, the rationale, really with all these teams I identify. What is fulfillment from Dynasty Mode? What is enjoyable? Well, storylines based on either past or present, any combination of intrigue, and ultimately taking them to heights, reaching levels that have never before been reached, building a legacy in that sense. With Rice, you can absolutely do that. You're talking about a school that really reached their prime, the 40s, 50s, highlighted by 1954, 10-win season after a victory in the Cotton Bowl against Alabama. Notably, one of the most infamous plays occurred when Rice was on their own 5-yard line. Running back Dickie Magel was running down the Alabama sideline, only to be tackled by Alabama fullback Thomas Edison Tommy Lewis running onto the field. Talk about a noteworthy play that garnered national attention and will be remembered in the annals of college history. A story that almost writes itself. Thomas Edison, Tommy Lewis, bring the electricity, your own spark, to the Rice Owls. Also very notable about Rice, Mr. Heisman himself, John Heisman, actually finished his collegiate coaching career with Rice. It was not a very successful tenure. You can effectively rewrite Rice's Heisman history by having success taking the program to conference championships, national, college football playoff, and beyond berths. And ultimately, outside of the big one, on an individual player basis, the motivation to win a Heisman Trophy. Or potentially E.J. Warner, a quarterback who is a transfer owl to owl inter-American from Temple to Rice, the son of Kurt Warner. There's that legacy component. Really write your own story for EJ and the Rice Owls. Everything's bigger in Texas, not with Rice. Rice is amongst the bottom 5 enrolled schools in the entire FBS. We're talking about a team that is very low, if not the lowest, on the totem pole of Texas football. The little brother to rivals like SMU, Houston, and Texas. There's that underdog story right therein. Being in Texas, though, we know real-life recruiting hotspots. We've already seen South Florida, Atlanta metro area identified. You know Texas is certainly going to have a hotbed of talent. Of the 3,500 some odd players that get generated, you will have opportunity, ample opportunity to pick up maybe your 2-3 stars and turn them into something. You have every opportunity to set a new standard at a very intriguing place in Rice. Our first power conference rebuild out of the ACC, for me, it's Syracuse. Talk about building a legacy, talking about a rich, storied tradition of sports there at Syracuse. They've been known, frankly, as a basketball school. In that shared dome, it's been basketball, and then football has been very much behind for the last handful of decades. Before the Boeheim era, though, there was success. Syracuse did earn a consensus national championship in 1959. They've technically been at the highest point, but not really. In the CFP era, the modern era, you can take them to new heights. The Boeheim era, frankly, in basketball, is over now. You're talking about the rich history. The best player in college football history named by ESPN in their article a few years ago. You've got Jim Brown. You've got Ernie Davis, Floyd Little, the famed number 44. Your current pieces to work with include a Kyle McCord transfer from Ohio State. People love to hate on him and blame him for Ohio State's shortcomings last year, although they were close. They had an opportunity, but they love to scapegoat him. You've got that storyline. You've got LaQuint Allen in the backfield. You've got Oronde Gadsden, who's been revealed as a top 100 player, an incredible hybrid, tight end technically, but really a receiver skill set. Why not be aggressive and challenge yourself to go for it all, potentially year one, and say things don't go according to plan. Maybe you make the playoff or you're on the fringes of it. As these guys matriculate out of your program, why not embrace the challenge of rebuilding recruiting as a power school in the ACC? But you're a little bit of a disadvantage, a little bit more challenging recruiting-wise compared to even the new arrivals of a Cal and SMU, where they can naturally tap into. You've got, of course, the Florida schools. You've got the Carolina schools. Even in the Northeast Corridor, you're at a disadvantage even compared to schools in Pennsylvania, a Pittsburgh out in Western PA that can tap into that rich recruiting hotbed and even into Ohio there. The tradition, the program, taking it to new heights, building something sustainable there, where a national brand is very intriguing. Why not make it a football school? Out of the Big 12, for me, it's Baylor. The Bears out of Waco, Texas, a program that has seen some Big 12 conference titles, has seen some consistent top 15 finishes peaking in around even the top 5 as recent as 2021, after Dave Aranda took over once Matt Rule went to the NFL, when he rebuilt a one-win team to a near conference champion. So a really good rebuild there as recent as the last decade. Coming off of the Art Briles scandal, this is a program that has been near the top, but hasn't quite sniffed success. They've fallen a bit behind the wayside to rivals, like even a TCU, a Texas, an A&M. When we're ultimately talking about a video game, the players that you're going to be utilizing, an ode to really the last time, the last era where we had this college football game, an RG3, the only Heisman winner at Baylor, not comparing like for like or saying he is RG3, but you talk about in year one, Toledo transfer, DeQuan Finn at quarterback. Talk about the equalizer positionally, but in a video game sense, the speed, the electric game-breaking ability DeQuan Finn offers as a dual threat. Maybe you make a real push year one. You embrace that challenge. Once DeQuan Finn leaves after 2024, you're recruiting out of what is surely a hotbed of talent, plenty of options to choose from, and frankly, there's no reason why they shouldn't be recruiting to the highest level. I don't understand why they're hard-pressed to even get a single 4-star recruit. For a program that seemingly resurged a couple seasons ago, 3 years ago, and now falling off precipitously, you come in and you take the Baylor Bears to prominence, to national prominence, and really take the Big 12 by the horns now that, no pun intended, the Longhorns, the Sooners, some of the preeminent powers of old are gone out of the conference. Make a statement. Out of the Big 10, for me, it's the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, based out of Piscataway, New Jersey, so off the bat, that's a good area for recruiting. That tri-state area, New Jersey, New York, got Pennsylvania there. There's opportunity for you to really build something special. There's already a player in place, a top 100 player with EA's top 100 rankings released. Kyle Monangai at running back. You think about just the identity as a physical, tough team, embodying the state, embodying the type of identity that you can build at Rutgers. Why not elevate a program to heights that they've just not seen, even beyond a conference title, all the way back in 2012 when the Big East Conference was still a thing football-wise. We even go further. Back in 1869, Rutgers, the history, the lore of the sport of college football, against Princeton, a home and home, those were the first ever quote-unquote college football games played. It was more of a rugby hybrid. And they claimed, with the split series, they claimed a national title. That doesn't count for all intents and purposes. We're going for a difficulty in the Big Ten, a rebuild that, frankly, a team that's viewed as a second-class team, football-wise, in that conference, completely tossed aside. You've got your Ohio States, your Penn States, your Michigans, your Wisconsins, Iowas, Purdue's, Indiana's. You name the Big Ten, when are you naming Rutgers? You even name now the schools out Washington, USC, UCLA. Rutgers just gets tossed behind the wayside. So why not embrace this forgotten child role? Elevate a program to prominence that has some deep roots in the history of this game. The lore of the program, only one retired number, 52, Eric LeGrand. If you're not familiar with the story, about a decade or so, a little bit more, in an inconspicuous tackle attempt, he ended up being paralyzed. And you talk about an ambassador for the program, a guy that has continued to be a motivational and inspirational speaker, a guy that embodies, on a human level, someone you want to root for, someone who champions fighting, dealing with adversity, motivating, inspiring other people. That Scarlet R, you can wear that on your hat, visor, whatever your build is with your coach with pride, and you can really build something special and make some noise with some campus legends like a Colin Monangai. Year one, set the tone, recruit well, And all of a sudden, imagine the fulfillment of building up a Rutgers that competes with those aforementioned teams, historical blue blood big dogs of the Big Ten. Really enticing, intriguing storyline to me. Transitioning back to your non-power conferences, Conference USA, for me, it's easy. It's got to be Kennesaw State, located in Kennesaw, Georgia. This is a program that's only entering its 10th year in existence, and it's had success 3 of the first 7 seasons. It won that Big South Conference title at that FCS 1AA level. The attraction of this rebuild is you quite literally write the history, build out the legacy for this program at the FBS level. You are starting from as blank of a slate, a team builder in real life, so to speak, as close as it gets to that. And I want to address at this point with the Kennesaw State Owls, yet another Owl team like the Rice. It just happens to be a coincidence. But I want to address, rather to be clear, the idea with these smaller programs. People want to say, oh, realistic, or these non-power schools, realistic this or that. They would never get to this height or that height. It's a video game at the end of the day. And we're trying to have fun. We're trying to be enjoying this game the best way we can. Why not embrace this role as the ultimate underdog at this Division I level within your own conference and recruit out of the metro Atlanta area? Your backyard is what's already been identified by Kirk Herbstreit in the Dynasty Deep Dive, the trailer, so to speak, of sorts. That is one of the specific identified areas. Are you going to be competing with Georgia and all the other power programs? Yes. But talk about the idea of finding a diamond in the rough, that hometown hero in Kennesaw, building out, creating legendary players, seasons. It's all there for the taking, really carving out your own path with Kennesaw State. Out of the MAC, everybody's favorite conference for rebuilds, for dynasty seemingly, I'm going with the Buffalo, not Bills, the Buffalo Bulls. Talk about a team that just doesn't have a lot of history. They have one conference championship in 2008. Otherwise, really has not seen many heights. Had players like a Khalil Mack headline the program's alumni and success in the NFL. You've also got players like a Tyree Jackson, a quarterback, a very nice college quarterback. And then you have to do a tight end transition. Just tweener, hasn't quite worked out. The relative heights of the Buffalo program came under Lance Leopold, where they became a top 25, a ranked team for the first time in their program history, albeit towards the end of the COVID-shortened, weird 2020 season. And then Lance Leopold left for the bigger, better, the Kansas job, where he has done a phenomenal rebuild himself there. But he left Buffalo in some relative ruins, just not a lot of success, a middling toward bottom of the pack of the MAC. A little bit unintentional rhyming there. But I overall just look at being based in Buffalo, a program where you can write significant history. You look at the area, similar to aforementioned Syracuse, upstate New York, maybe not the greatest recruiting ground, but it only feeds into the idea that it is a challenge. And why not embrace challenges in rebuilds? That's the name of the game ultimately, right? We don't want it to be easy. We don't want to build the Bamas, the Oregons of the world. There's nothing to be quote-unquote rebuilt. You want to really put your mark, leave your mark, legacy on a program. With Buffalo, you can do exactly that. And to quote a sports movie, not football, you build it. Buffalo, let me tell you, they certainly will come. There are people willing, ready, and able to jump through tables, parking lot, tailgate. You can create quite an atmosphere and environment at Buffalo. From the Mountain West, call it a soft spot, call it nostalgia here. I got to go Boise State. Growing up, Kellen Moore, a fan of him, way back when we had NCAA 13, 11, 12, 10, going all out of order there. The theme being, it was always a cool, fun, enjoyable rebuild. That blue stadium, you might hate it. I love it still. And talk about prominence, potential real-life prominence this year. A program that has a lot of history to begin with, 21 titles in the Mountain West. They have a history of winning. They started out as a junior college, and they have a junior college national championship. They also have an FCS national championship. But why not go aggressive year one with Ashton Jeanty, one of the best, if not the best, running back in college football? This guy was a all-purpose All-American The only player to have multiple 50-plus rushing and receiving touchdowns last year. And then you've got at quarterback the transfer sophomore effective eligibility. So you've got 3 years. Malachi Nelson, one of, if not the highest ranked recruit at quarterback in his class, out of California, stays home, goes to USC. The guy that for one reason or another didn't work out there, seemingly cast aside, passed over. Why not the redemption story for a hailed recruit? Go for it all as early as year 1. And year 2, even potentially, if Ashton Genty, I don't know how the declare status is really going to work, but assuming he stays, year 4, you've got an opportunity to really chase it all with Boise State. And given it's Idaho, recruiting certainly is not going to come easy. But nonetheless, you establish an identity, a winning culture there. Who knows what can happen? In the Pac-12, really 2, what's left of it, for me, it's got to be Oregon State. Talk about a natural transition. You've lost your head coach who took you to incredible heights. You lost the quarterback that he recruited that's very talented, that went with him to Michigan State. You lose your star running back to Miami. Talk about the no one likes us, we don't care mentality. In some ways, maybe sympathy for Oregon State and their fans. A really cool stadium in Corvallis. Why not embrace a program that's seemingly been just brushed aside, looked down upon when everything is going against you? You rise up and build up a program that hasn't really achieved national prominence. They do have a Heisman winner back in 1962 with Terry Baker. Get that next Heisman winner and get yourself into the top 12 one way or another, and you see what happens. Just embrace the challenge. That's the theme with a lot of these rebuilds, rather with all these rebuilds. We don't want it easy. We want it hard. We want to embrace the grind, right? The best conference in college football, the SEC. Look, I'll check in my bias at the door. I'll admit I am a South Carolina fan here, but they are an incredible rebuild in NCAA 25. Talk about a team program that has just fallen on hard times lately. Ironically, timeline being, well, with the last college football game. That interim period over the last decade plus has been brutal. We have suffered and suffered and suffered. But frankly, what you need to know about South Carolina, ranked as a top 15 toughest place to play by this game. We have not been anywhere near a top 15 level team. So you've got fan support. You've got a hell of an environment. I'm telling you, with the presentation, the effort that they have put in with each and every team in this game effectively, they've already acknowledged the white towels. They're going to be a thing. The detail, if I envision what it's going to look like, where you hear 2001 playing, transitioning into Sandstorm, you're going to get chills. You are going to get chills in Williams-Brice. For a team that saw 3 consecutive 11-win seasons, it has been tough sledding. Tough sledding. You've seen in that time since the last college football game, Georgia, Clemson, the rivalries in the SEC and overall in-state just haven't gone great. Have not whatsoever. So you can really turn a page, get this program back on track. And frankly, you've got the players, the talent to do so in a college football video game setting. Lenora Sellers, the hometown hero at quarterback, along with, I know the term gets thrown around quite a bit, a freak of nature, an athletic, out-of-this-world talent, Nick Harbor. If you're not familiar, near Olympic-level sprinter. He is faster at 100 meters at any meter, I would really venture out to bet, than a Tyreek Hill in a track setting. It's been timed. You can compare him. 6'5", 240. This guy, wide receiver, tight end, you develop slowly but surely, get those skill points up. The timeline of Lenoris, the rec specs, talk about that aesthetic. Are you kidding me? The rec specs to Harbor, that timeline for the next 3 seasons. You kidding me? You can truly build this program up to prominence within the SEC East, within the SEC, and possibly to a top 12 spot in potentially year 2, year 3, or year 1. If you got the stick skills, hey, what's lost in all this? You got the stick skills. Maybe you're just bound for success. Players like myself that are maybe a little bit challenged, we're going to have to figure out the new passing and all that. Might take some time. South Carolina is quite a fulfilling rebuild that checks so many boxes. Tradition, environment, conference, setting, players already there. Why not rebuild the Gamecocks? Last but certainly not least, rounding out the conferences, it's a non-power conference with the Sun Belt, aka the Fun Belt. And look, there is an incredible array of rebuild choices here, from your Coastal Carolinas, the Teal Field, your App States, your Marshall. Ultimately, I've gone a little bit against what I feel like the grain is here. I'm identifying South Alabama here, based out of Mobile, Alabama. Of course, the rich tradition there in the state. You've got, of course, Alabama and Auburn there. South Alabama, though, a bit of a new program. Only 15 years of history, really just the last decade being in the FBS. And when I was researching for this video, getting some context, one of the more honorable, yet unfortunately rooted in tragic circumstances, the tradition, the jersey number 5, running back Anthony Mastella, ahead of what would have been his senior year, ahead of the second ever season in South Alabama's history, died in a motorcycle accident. To honor his legacy, his leadership, the number 5 is awarded to a specific player that deserves it. For a program that's relatively new to the FBS, being in Alabama, you've got, in Mobile and specifically, you know there's going to be some talent to pick and choose from. And in terms of writing the history, the legacy of this program, which just came off of their first ever bowl win, their head coach leaving to go to Bama on that staff, you've got Gio Lopez, home state Alabama kid, redshirt freshman. So you're going to have 4 years of him leading the program to heights it's never previously achieved, get a potential conference title, and more. He accounted for 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, the bowl game MVP. Phil Steele identified 8 total players in his preseason all-conference teams. There's some talent there. Let me know in the comments, guys, who you want me to rebuild first out of these teams I've identified. Let me know what you think of the teams I've identified here, who you're really looking forward to rebuild. I cannot wait to stream some rebuilds here, post college football content, and also still some Dynasty content. Want to make that clear. Still going to keep that churning and burning. I will see you guys soon. Have a great one.